Hello everyone, RVer Frank here. This is Lubken Canyon Road and remains a favorite drive of mine. I love the many summer days driving the length of the road from US 395 west to the Horseshoe Meadows Road up to the Horseshoe Meadows Equestrian Camp, or north through the Alabama Hills to the Whitney Portal Road or Tuttle Creek Road. But I'll save those trips for another video. Today, up on ahead, we will be going by the old John Lubken Ranch. But along the way, I'll talk about the pioneering family that settled here in this beautiful area of Lone Pine in the Owens Valley of Inyo County. John Lubken was an early Inyo County Supervisor and rancher and wrote for the pioneer family publication, the Saga of Inyo County. The account of his life is best told in his own words. "I was born," he wrote, "on May 5th in 1876 in Lone Pine, and the son of John Frederick and Augusta Marie Roeper Lubken. My father came to the valley in 1862 by way of the Isthmus of Panama to this valley. That was long before the Panama Canal was built. My mother came from near Berlin, Germany, to Placerville in 1866. She came to this valley in 1869. My father married my mother in 1875 when she was 19. I started milking cows on our ranch when I was 9 years old. I was set to work, and that's all I did was work. My father eventually owned the Lone Pine Brewery, built by Louis Munsinger, before the earthquake of 1872. I could lift a 180-pound sack of potatoes onto a wagon headed up to Cerro Gordo when I was 15. My father would go along with 4 or 5 kegs of beer. I never tasted ice cream until I was about 16 years old. I had one dish at Levi's in Independence and didn't have any more until I was grown. After my father died, my mother sold the brewery to Skinner, who tore the building down." John continues, "I bought the ranch from my mother cheap. She was going to sell it to George Shuey for $12,000. It was a hell of a place, all willows. I asked her if she would sell it to me for $12,000, and she said, 'If you have the money, I'll take it.' I told her to never mind the money, but to be in Independence the next morning, and we would fix it up. She said, 'All right, but remember, I have to have the money.' She never knew what money I had. I gave her my check for $3,000 and paid her all the rest in cash. I had $9,000 drawing interest. I was a rancher most of my life. After I went to business college, I came home and went into the cattle game and made my living out of cattle. I ran about 500 head all the time, mixed whiteface and Durham. I would run 6 years whiteface and 3 years Durham." John Lubken married Mary Lenore Holligren on June 17, 1902, and the 2 Owens Valley residents had 3 children, Bernice, Henrietta, and John. Here's a little more about John in his later years. He is said to have driven himself to the pub for his daily breakfast of a man-sized steak washed down with a generous draught of spirits for years after he probably should have depended on someone else to drive. The ranch dogs, all named Dog, came along in the back of his pickup and caused him a problem from time to time in their excessive eagerness to defend the vehicle. One story has it that he engaged another driver in a collision on his way to breakfast and was extremely indignant because, as he puts it, Everybody knows I drive the street every morning at this hour, and they should know enough to stay out of the way." Many were the stories inspired and exaggerated by John's reputation for fierce independence. They called him friendly and hospitable, a true descendant of those hardy Americans who developed the Owens Valley. Typical of longtime residents, John believed that a man's word is as good as his bond, and that a friend is a friend, come hell and high water. John H. Lubken is remembered by those close to him as a man who seemed as big and full of energy and authority as the Greek mythology's Triton, whose voice at a whisper crossed an auditorium, and a normal conversation stilled the birds outside, and whose heart and warmth were equally overwhelming. So was his independent disposition. Everything about John Lubken was larger than average. His features, his voice, his determination, and his generosity.